AM 630. WMAL.
With 7:06 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk, and indeed Washington will come right here to talk today at 8:35. Brett Baer of Fox News Channel joins us, and at the bottom of this hour, 7:35, Washington Redskins great Trevor Maddich. All about the Super Bowl, baby. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Brian Wilson.
And on the Newsmaker hotline right now, Ambassador John Bolton. And boy, it couldn't be a better day to have you here. There's a couple of areas we want to get into. One is, the legacy of the current Secretary of State. Get to that in a moment. But first, I want to start with what happened yesterday up on Capitol Hill with the confirmation hearings for Chuck Hagel, the man the president has chosen to lead the Department of Defense. We're going to get into this in a much bigger way in the 8 o'clock hour. But Ambassador Bolton, I got to tell you, I've covered a lot of confirmation hearings. That was the most dismal, abysmal performance I've ever seen. Am I alone in that assessment, or do you feel the same way?
Oh, I feel exactly the same way. That hearing was a debacle for the Hagel nomination effort, and the administration's attempts to spin it as, maybe not his best day, really, I think, obscure just how badly his nomination was wounded. I mean, he went in with a lot of question marks that needed answering. I don't think he answered any of the key points, and if anything, he emerged from the hearing in worse shape because he couldn't answer basic questions about even administration current policy, what his job entailed. So I think he's now raised the competence question. Does he have the intellectual heft to do the job? And then second, and we've seen this coming, and he didn't do anything to correct it, what, as you know, in Washington we call the confirmation conversion, read a long list of his statements. He said, well, I didn't really mean it. It was taken out of context. Times have changed. I could have used a better word. I mean, that raises a character issue. What does he believe? Does he believe what he said the first time, or does he believe what he says in order to get enough votes to be confirmed?
Ambassador Bolton, I want to follow up on the competence issue here because there was one striking moment, and especially from your position as a diplomat, I want you to answer to this moment about the quote-unquote containment policy to Iran. Listen to this from yesterday's hearing.
By the way, I've just been handed a note that I misspoke and said I supported the president's position on containment. If I said that, it meant to say that obviously his position on containment, we don't have a position on containment.
We do have a position on containment, which is we do not favor containment.
That last voice was Senator Levin, a Democrat, who stepped in to save him because he so botched the correction.
Yeah, so did this strike fear into the hearts of the mullahs in Iran when you see our new Secretary of Defense not even being able to articulate the proper position of the United States government?
Well, it should strike fear into the hearts of Democratic senators who now have to defend this position. No, there are three answers he could have given on containment. Two were wrong and one was right, and he gave both wrong answers. That was a good example of the competence issue because if you can't even understand what the current position is and articulate it, and then you're handed a note and you still get it wrong, there's a problem there.
I mean, look, you know how these things work. When you're nominated, a whole team surrounds you from the administration. They put you through the ringer. They put you through mock hearings so that you're supposed to be ready. And this is the best he could do. I honestly think that the American military, the men and women on the front lines around the country and around the world, deserve a better Secretary of Defense than Chuck Hagel. He didn't impress on any level yesterday.
No, and I think that goes to his ability to lead a department that's the most complex of any in the federal government. And so I think what comes down now, you hear a lot of really kind of simple-minded reporting, if I may say so, from the media about how the
you may, please do.
Is still on track. But a lot depends on senators like John McCain and Lindsey Graham, who have not yet declared their position. And if they decide to oppose Chuck Hagel and to go to the filibuster, I think the Republicans, with maybe a couple of crossover Democrats, can hold the 41 votes they need to block the nomination.
Is this one where we should see the filibuster, in your opinion?
Pardon me?
Is this one where we should see the filibuster employed?
Well, I think it's going to come down to how McCain and Graham and others thought that he did in answering their questions. And I picked those two senators because those were two of the most dismal performances by Hagel.
Yes.
If they stand against the nomination. I think other Republicans will join them, and then I think it's in real trouble.
Ambassador Bolton, I'd like to enlighten our audience with regard to the questioning specifically of John McCain. Here's a clip that I want you to answer to afterwards, because you were actually part of the Bush administration during the troop surge discussions, and of course Chuck Hagel was against it. Senator John McCain asked him about that position now in retrospect.
Well, I would defer to the judgment of history to sort that out.
I want to know if you were right or wrong. That's a direct question. I expect a direct answer.
The surge assisted in the objective, but if we review the record a little bit.
Will you please answer the question? Were you correct or incorrect when you said that the surge would be the most dangerous foreign policy blunder in this country since Vietnam? Were you correct or incorrect? Yes or no?
My reference to the surge being the most dangerous.
Senator Hagel, the question is, were you right or wrong? That's a pretty straightforward question.
Well, I'm not going to give you a yes or no answer on a lot of things.
Show that you refused to answer that question.
Ambassador Bolton?
That was the single most painful moment of a long day. And the way Senator McCain, I think, very gracefully but forcefully handled that showed Hagel with problems both on the competence and the character side. You know, back when the surge was being proposed, Chuck Hagel had an opinion about it. He was against it. So McCain asks him today, what's your opinion? And he says, I leave it to the judgment of history. What kind of chicken blank answer is that?
Well, look, I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. I've probably covered about 100 confirmation hearings in my day as a Capitol Hill correspondent. I was up there a total over the course of my career 12 years, so I went to a lot of these hearings. I've never seen a bigger train wreck.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. I don't know how this is going to come out. I still think we need to hear from, as I say, people like McCain and Graham. But make no mistake about it, this nomination is in deep trouble.
Ambassador Bolton, we have some breaking news here. I want to bring it to your attention. Apparently there has been a blast outside the U.S. Embassy in Turkey, in Ankara, Turkey. 2 security guards have reportedly been killed after a suicide bomb attacked the entrance of the U.S. Embassy there in Turkey. This has just happened. Can you just, I know this is on the fly, but things are starting to look a little volatile in Turkey now. How important and critical is Turkey to our global presence, specifically right there in that region?
Well, it's been extremely important. It's been a valuable NATO ally, but I have to tell you, in the past decade, under the Erdogan government, it has been slipping away from the West. And, you know, we'll have to see who claims credit for this terrorist attack. Maybe it's Kurdish extremists, maybe it's Al-Qaeda, people from Syria, but it just shows this supposedly moderate Turkish government, which is not moderate at all, is still vulnerable to terrorism,
well, and
America's still a target.
There's so much praise about Hillary Clinton, the outgoing Secretary of State. Some people saying she's been our best Secretary of State. I mean, you see what's happening with the Arab Spring, and now you see a very strong ally like Turkey now embroiled in terrorist attacks. What's your opinion of the outgoing Secretary of State?
I think she's been one of the least consequential Secretaries of State in history. She's certainly the weakest since William Rogers in the Nixon administration, where he barely was able to hold his job because of Henry Kissinger's role as national security advisor. Sure, she traveled a lot, but that's, you know, that's not making policy. I think she's lucky to get out now, and so John Kerry has his first headache on his first day on the job.
Yeah, right.
Well, Ambassador Bolton, it was a very fortuitous day to have you on the lineup. Thank you so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. And I want to mention that we're going to get back into the Hagel confirmation hearings at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. So if you have strong feelings about this, you'll want to hang around for that and engage in our conversation.